What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the second episode of PicksCity podcast. I'm here with John Rubin from Sin City Sports Investment. If you don't know him, he's the owner and the main guy from this sports brokerage firm, and he's absolutely got some absolutely banging tips for you this weekend from college football. I'm gonna leave you with him now for him to introduce himself and to tell you what we have on board for this weekend.
Well, hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I've been on the Pick City squad for a little over a year now, and it's been great. I have a few college football games tomorrow that I can give out on the show. And frankly, if you like what you hear and you would like to get more, you can go to PickCity.com and just follow the links to Sin City Sports Investments. That's Sin with a C, like Cincinnati, Ohio. And I charge $9.99 per month for all my picks, so that I can pay my dues in the business and get a following and really, make a name for myself. So that's where I am right now, and I'm looking forward to getting started here.
If you don't know John, every buck you pay for his services is absolutely worth it. Like his picks are absolutely amazing, and well, he's gonna guarantee a profit each and every week on college football, on NFL, and whatever the hell he's betting on. Okay, well, before we go to the Saturday slate, we have a big match tonight, John. We have Minnesota against Purdue, and there's some big line movement from what I see here because I was just checking it yesterday, and Minnesota was actually like a 3 points underdog. And looking at my bookie now, I can see them being actually the favorites today. And obviously, most of the value disappeared already. If you want to back Minnesota, you should have done it like 1 or 2 days ago. But what do you say about the total for this one? Because the total is quite high at 60. And personally, I do not see those two teams putting 16 points on the board to cover that over.
It seems a bit high for a conference matchup. I don't have anything, frankly, on the side. I'm going to stay away from that. However, I do have a lean. This is not one that I have given out to any clients or anything, but one that um, I'm definitely going to put some pizza money on tonight. And that's actually Purdue, especially now that they are getting some points. I like fading a home team that generally doesn't cover, and Minnesota fits that bill as a home team. They're mediocre 4-5, so nothing to write on the road. I know it's only a short number, but I do see some value in that. And then secondly, I like fading a team that is coming off of a very poor offensive performance, and that would be Minnesota here again. Anytime a team scores fewer than 10 points, and then they are not getting more than three, then I typically like to fade them. So in this case, certainly fits the bill. I've got Purdue plus 2.5. Again, this is just for entertainment tonight, really. Pizza money for tomorrow, but the big three I've got coming up tomorrow for sure.
Okay, yeah, like personally, I do not see any value in like backing a side in this match because I like Minnesota as an underdog actually, but now they're the favorite. I wouldn't pay that price to get them. I don't think they're the better team in this matchup. But that under might be an interesting play, and of course Purdue now as a road underdog, of course, also has some value. Okay, going forward, what matches do you have for us tomorrow, John? What should we look at on this board?
So
Because there's a lot of
I
stuff to
have
bet on.
officially I have 10 plays for tomorrow, but I'll give three of them out here on the show for free. And these are frankly the three that I feel most strongly about. So this is a heck way to start my reputation on the Pick City podcast. It's all or nothing now. But the first one that I like, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. First one I like is San Diego State and Nevada under 46.5 points. My reasoning here is that since 2017, the Aztecs are the best under team in all of college football. They hit the under at a ridiculous rate of 71.4%. Nevada is not too shabby themselves at 59.5% unders in that same time span. And this season, albeit a short sample size, but both teams are staying true to form Each of them are 3-1 to the under this year. San Diego State's defense has allowed 10 or fewer points in 3 of their 4 games this year. Nevada has allowed no more than 20 points in each of their last 3 games. So now the only thing that gives me some bit of pause here, and this is why it's number 3 on my list instead of higher, is that it's such a tight line at -1 that it does pose the risk of going into overtime. But barring that scenario, I'm looking at a 24-20, 21-17 type game at the most here.
Yeah, I mean, now that you mentioned the under, I'm just looking over some stats here, and San Diego actually has one of the best defenses in the country, and
Mm-hmm.
Nevada is also like they're a very good defensive team, but the fact that both of these teams actually like focus a lot on the run game when it comes to their offense, it's also
Mm-hmm.
gonna help the under because it's gonna run the clock down. And
Absolutely.
I feel that especially in college, okay, maybe not that much in the NFL because you have a lot of players who can make big time plays. But if you look at college football and you're not looking at the best teams in the country with the best players in the country, then if you have two teams that are like run game heavily based offense, then you should probably look at the under for those matches because it hits most of the time simply because that clock is just going down and the match actually has like a very slowish tempo.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it also begs some explanation here too. Is that my everybody has a different method of handicapping games. Some people look at the individual players and their stats. Some people just simply fade the public, which is fine. Some people go with the public. There's a million different ways to do it. But myself, and this will inform kind of how I go about doing what I'm doing. The first thing that I like to look at is overarching systems that apply no matter who the teams are in question, right? So you take the team names out, take the player names out, and just see two teams in similar situations. How do they typically perform? And this is one when both teams perform to the under. It's certainly not gonna be an over. So you look to continue to go that way. You mentioned the defenses, you mentioned the run games. Both of those play perfectly into it. So these systems are the first place that I look, and then after that, then I do look at the individual team trends. And again, both of them trend to the under. And then finally, I look at the matchup and how they've historically performed against each other. And now, interestingly, San Diego State and Nevada against each other in the last 5 matchups, I think, is actually 3-2 to the over. So again, that's a reason why this is only number 3 on my list and not higher. But given how things have been going, particularly this season and really all the way back even to 2017, the fact that it's 3-2, just call that a coin flip. Everything else points to the under, and I'm very comfortable with that.
I mean, that's the thing with college football, right? Because you see like so many roster changes with players going to the NFL or just like graduating and like new players coming in. Like that history is not many times that relevant as there are like so many roster shakeups all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Something that happened like 4 years ago might not be that relevant anymore. But yeah, I completely agree that this match certainly points to an under, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
be quite surprised if it goes over. I don't see a lot of indicators that might point to that based on what we saw from these two teams so far this season.
Well, heck,
Okay,
if you just blindly bet San Diego State unders for the last 3.5 seasons, you're 70% winning. So, I mean, that alone seems reason enough. But, you unfortunately you can't bet the team trends blindly. But this is a case where it certainly fits the bill.
I mean, hey, after you telling me all that information, I'm definitely betting them blindly on the under. I think
Yeah,
that's what I'm
that
looking
may be
for.
one to do for pizza money until further notice, at least.
Yeah, okay. What's the next match, Joe?
The
John, sorry.
next The next one I have is Iowa. Now, so we went from a group of 5 conference. Now we're going to get into the ones that are on big time TV, and I'm going to go in the Big Ten conference and take Iowa -2.5 points. I like backing good rush defenses on the road in conference. And that, again, speaks to the overarching systems that apply no matter who the teams are. It just so happens in this case that is Iowa. They allow only 2.8 yards per rush attempt, and that's best in the Big Ten. Penn State has been the prototypical dumpster fire this year, 0-4 straight up, 0-4 against the spread, with straight up losses against bottom feeders like Maryland and Nebraska. This, frankly, isn't even really a new trend with Penn State, because even last season they were 2-5 against the spread in Happy Valley. So Penn State, I think, at this point has given up. Iowa has steadily improved each game this season, and I think Iowa blows them completely out of the stadium, just like they did with Michigan State and Minnesota the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Penn State, and there is so much controversy about their starting quarterback, right? It's that
Mm-hmm.
kind of like duel between Clifford and what's the other guy's name? Levis or something
Yeah,
similar to that. Like, there is a lot of pressure on Clifford to like live up to the expectations, and he didn't so far. So you can just expect the whole situation to implode if that offense doesn't get running against Iowa here. And Iowa is very good. Like, they are on a very, very good. They are rolling right now, and they're
right.
far superior to what Penn State has shown so far. And Penn State has nothing left to play for this season. They didn't have anything to play for 2 matches in after I think they lost their first 2 matches.
That's
So
right. You're right about that. And you mentioned the controversy surrounding Penn State. I mean, they're a team in turmoil, not only with the quarterback situation, but their star running back, Journey Brown, was forced to retire from football because of a a heart condition, which is awful for him. But, what does this do to the rest of the Penn State roster? I mean, this news just came earlier in the week after they were already 0-4. So now one of their best players is gone from a team that was already terrible to begin with. I don't see how you could possibly bet Penn State even catching points if it's only 2.5. I see this being a complete rout, a complete embarrassment.
what's your opinion on taking maybe Iowa to win this one or covering like what 2.5 points and taking the under as well? Because I don't see a lot of points being scored in this one. I mean, Penn State, not a very good offensive team, but they have a above average defense at least. And considering all the offensive issues that Penn State has put against that Iowa good defense, I don't see a lot of points being scored in this one. So
Uh,
maybe that's
my
a good combo.
my concern with the total, and I think taking under on the Penn State team total, certainly an option. My concern is that if it is a blowout, the way that I feel it could be, that Iowa could end up scoring all the points on their own. So, like I said, team total viable option. I typically like to just do one bet for each game that I'm in. So if I'm going to do Iowa minus the points, I'm just going to stick with Iowa minus the points. I don't want to run the risk of splitting the game if I take the under and Iowa ends up winning 70-0 or something like that.
Okay, very, very good information right there. Okay, and then what's the third match we have from you
The
today,
third
John?
one that I really like, and again, I should point out too, all of these, in addition to the other 7 that are on my slate and all of the NFL picks, have already been sent out to all of my clients at the number they were at the time. So these numbers I'm giving out are at, I would hope at peak value. If they move against us, then it's all the more reason to consider subscribing so that you can get ideally the best of the number. That's not to say that I'm always going to get the number at its very peak. Sometimes it moves. Sometimes it moves with us, which is actually a bad thing because, take the Iowa minus 2.5. I'll be perfectly frank. I gave that out. It was actually -3 at the time, and somebody's betting Penn State here. It doesn't bother me because I still think it'll be Iowa in a blowout. But more often than not, these numbers will be at better value than the closing line will be. With that being said, this is such an example, and that's Kansas State plus 11. And I believe now, as I check, it's 10.5. This this one has more to do with public bias than anything else.
That's a
See,
big
people
spread
see
to
that nice
cover,
little
ten
say
and a
again.
half. That's a very big spread to cover 10.5, considering the situation for this match.
Well, exactly, and I'll give some perfect examples here. I mean, again, I sent this out plus 11. I think that, I mean, I would never lay 11 anyway, but especially in this case, people see that nice little number 17 in front of Iowa State's name, and they instantly overvalue them because of it. If you have ranked team versus unranked team, that's going to naturally create some level of bias. But the reality is that Iowa State is 3-6 against the spread as home favorites since last season, and they've been favored by more than 10 points 7 times in that span, in which they are 2-5 against the spread in those games. And not only are they failing to cover, but they're failing miserably because they fail to cover by an average of over a touchdown per game, and they've lost 2 of those games straight up. Meanwhile, Kansas State in the last 2 seasons, or season and a half, if you want to call it, 14-6 against the spread since the beginning of last season. That includes 4-0 against the spread as double-digit dogs, and they've won 3 of those 4 games straight up. So you're giving me 11 points with a team that performs very well as big dogs. I will certainly jump on that once again here.
Yeah, and like what many people, at least the way I look at college football sometimes, there are some spots that I call them because I heard other people calling them like this. They're called situational spots, meaning
Mm-hmm.
that some teams might not care about the match from this week because they have a way bigger match next week, or maybe
Right.
they have a rivalry match next week. And you have Iowa State here who has a match on the road against Texas next week,
Mm-hmm.
which is way more important for them than this one against Kansas State. They probably just hope to get past and just don't care about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So considering that, I believe it's a very good spot for Kansas State to cover that. I believe that they're a very good underdog for this Saturday. They might even win the match because the Cyclones haven't looked that good, even though they have that 17 rank there.
Well, you're right about that, and it speaks to also possibly putting a little bit of a sprinkle, just maybe like 10% of your bet on this game, possibly on the money line, because again, you just look at the team's histories. Iowa has lost 50% of their games as double-digit favorites. K-State has won 75% of their games as double-digit dogs. So just the history alone will tell you that it's worth just a little bit on them. I'm not saying put the entire bet on the money line. That's not what I'm saying. But if you were to take the 1 unit that you would put on this game, maybe make 90% of it on the spread and 10% of it on the money line.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that spread, 10.5 for Kansas State, like that just looks like a gift. It's like
Mm-hmm.
1 month early Christmas gift that I'm not saying everyone should jump on, but if you're listening to this, I think that you should definitely consider taking the Wildcats tomorrow to cover against Iowa State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
these are
John.
my 3 big ones. Again, there are plenty more, and in fact, possibly a few more totals to come. I have some more research to do on weather and such, but those are the 3 big ones. Hopefully, our listeners cash at least 2 out of 3, if not a sweep. And we'll see what happens. If if I do well, maybe I'll be invited back next week. If not, not so much.
Okay, John, if you have any promotional stuff to promote before we go off the record, then this is the
Sure.
time.
It's funny. There are a lot of cappers on PicksCity that will do these temporary promotions, which is fantastic, and they provide unbelievable value. Now, again, in my situation, because I am making a name for myself, I'm building my business and trying to earn a reputation and paying my dues to the industry. I'm starting off at literally $9.99 per month for all picks. That's obviously right now that's all football. My other specialty is baseball in the spring and summer. But yeah, for $10 a month, if you want to simply tail certain kinds of picks like NFL player props, I'm doing very well with, and you want to ignore everything else, hey, that's perfectly fine. At $10 a month, if you agree with me on some picks and disagree with me on others, that's fine too. It's I've designed my business to cater to the beginning bettor that doesn't have the time to put the research in themselves. So I will gladly do that for you and tell you what I think is a good side and what I am personally going to bet. And it's up to you whether you want to tail it, whether you want to fade it, or whatever the case is. But again, $10 is not going to kill you. And, if nothing else, it should provide a lot of fun over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, most people pay $10 for Netflix a month, and they're just watching movies and TV shows the entire day without doing anything productive. So if you spend $10 on Netflix, and I'm not exactly sure how much it is, $10 on Spotify maybe, that's $20 that you just burned that month. You could have used $10 to buy John's picks, and you have turned a profit. So yeah,
Yeah,
if you're losing better, it's just your fault because you have the option to become a winning one right in front of you. Okay,
that's
John.
right. And one other thing to preach to our listeners as well is when it comes to money management, and this is something else that you'll get with my service too, is that every single pick that I give out, every single one, no matter if I'm supremely confident like these top three, or if I'm reasonably confident like the other ones, everything is only bet at 1 unit a piece. And if you're not familiar, 1 unit, at least in my world, means 1% of your betting bankroll. So if you have set aside, let's just say $1,000 to bet with, and if you lose all the $1,000, it's not going to hurt you, right? This isn't your mortgage, it isn't your car payment or anything like that. If you have $1,000 betting bankroll, literally every game that you bet should be about $10. And since I'm only charging $10 a month, it's basically the equivalent of about one pick. So I don't ever want anybody to be biting their nails, sweating out a game late at night, losing sleep, worried about what they're going to tell their wife or girlfriend or parents or whatever. It is an investment, but it's a fun investment. It should be fun first, investment second. And that's another reason why why I charge so little, because we want to just get people in the habit of risking small amounts.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about sports betting and why people like it and love it so much and why it's so attractive, it's because you're just making money while betting on your favorite sport. And if done right, you can make a lot of money. But
That's right.
you should follow, at least in the beginning, some professionals when it comes to betting, bankroll management, picking up the winners and all of that. And John is definitely one of them. Thank you so much for all of your insights. You
Absolutely.
were,
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And
well,
let's
talk
get
to you
2 out of
next
3.
week. We're definitely going to do this into something weekly.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, man. Thanks very much.
You too, John. Have a nice
Yeah. Bye bye.
weekend of betting.
You too. Thanks.
No worries.